So the difference that happened just a few days ago, June 11th, is that I have no fear. And I'm going to talk about rape. Rape being the violation that we do to each other. It's a feeling as well as an act. It starts with low standard for lying. I identified my triggers pretty early on. The triggers were lying to my face and lying on paper. Origins, the principal, lying to me about my students not getting a classroom in the years 2014, 2015. My ex-husband in my house lying to me about his intentions in being there. And lying on paper. Healthcare, as well as those that aren't able to provide the documentation for what they say, which is being on the board of directors. They all connect. I want to give a big shout out and gratitude to those that have helped me talk. Without them forcing me to relive the origin of trauma, I don't think I could have gotten here. So thank you. My voice is so much better. I've been dropping voice memos, voice check-ins, writing samples all over the internet for more than 6 years. And now I'm going to explain how I got here in advocacy, transitioning from 12 years teaching special ed in Chicago public schools. Special, since a special educator is above else, all is above all else, a behavioralist. Because I'm going to change policy and law and make it easier for those with no voice to have one. Otherwise, my experience is worth nothing. And also, I have to explain how I got these 2 cats. Thank you.
Right now is acting like a caged wild tiger.
Feel free to screenshot the entire letter if you want, but I'm going to be showing this over and over and over again because I'm modeling prolonged exposure therapy to dampen PTSD. Now, the issue with PTSD is I absolutely was hearing the children screaming, crying, self-harming, and looking at the administrators' faces, as well as the faces of these people at a bachelorette party who couldn't get over the fact that somebody wanted a separate check, their eyes bugged out of their head, as well as the face of an alderman is shocked that I'm even asking the question about safety in a public school, prioritizing the kids with special needs, the ones that are most at risk and vulnerable. It was bizarre. Her face got all red. I heard someone behind me say, "Oh, there she is." I don't listen to anyone's noise but my own, but I remember thinking, okay, so they know what the issue is and they understand when I bring it up to the person in public, what's going to happen? Answer my question. The response that I eventually got was I talked to the principal and he handled it. So do you want to know how he handled it? He handled violence in a school by denying the next class of primary special education students a classroom because I requested one after being assaulted and losing mobility. So this alderman handled. I had gone to this alderman when a principal wasn't taking care of LRE, which is the federal legal rights of a student with special needs, for 9 months, which led to the psychological decline and, quite frankly, horror of watching a child regress to a point where they're taking their pants off and about to take a poop in my classroom. So I got to witness psychological issues firsthand. And I can do this because I knew this was an injury that I needed to recover from, and I finally got there. So I'm so happy. All right, you have to acknowledge the experience of the person. You have to ask questions and then assess what you don't understand yourself. And you have to be willing to put your voice out there for others because that's what advocacy is. I told Northwestern Memorial Hospital that what you need is a good advocacy program because the behavior of the doctors and the administrators and some of the nurses are really negative and really stigmatizing, and they created suicide when they denied everything was brought on by the fact that my students with special needs rights were violated, ignored, and basically trampled on. So hey, that's going to affect somebody for sure. Also, the CTU and their lack of participation or lack of care is part of this, and the policies that have to change. So I want to change the law. That means things have to be different for the palala protected classes. And if you have a problem with my voice, if you have a problem with the way that I move and groove, then that's your issue. Just like I told the doctors, do you have a problem with the way I talk? Is this why you can't get beyond psychiatric disorder? Because I'm still waiting for you to come up with what that is. Because every time you ask me a question and I answer, you change the answer that I'm giving you. And that is dangerous. Okay, that caused suicide because your obsession with my race and adoption had nothing to do with this, had nothing to do with the violence that was going on in a public school and the violence that was going on in my home. But your focus on that and difference definitely indicated and showed me a way of life that I had been observing for over 6 years being with this guy I met in 2009 who had a cat. Because he came to me within the first year when he was doing some behaviors that were pretty shady and told me about his childhood trauma. And I took him to therapy. And that's where the story starts. In sessions. All right? Thank you. Now, this person is extremely important. Don't forget his name. Back then, I knew him as David, but now he goes by Dave. He gave permission for you to remain submissive, to pass bullying, denying your voice. But you did have a choice to get out of my house. Didn't you say nobody lets me speak? Isn't that what you told me repeatedly? And instead you spent all of your energy abusing me. Ooh, figuring out how to rewrite this narrative now. Well, your therapist gave you the way out, and wow, it all goes back to my sexual assault almost 3 decades ago. So I did find a trauma specialist, and I brought this person to them, who also told them no. He's the one that I told after the first session that you lied. After the first session, it was clear, shit, this is how people get comfortable with suicide. I'm gonna kill myself. You're so depressed to be with me. Well, then get out of my house. Why, you're not going to rewrite my life. I got to this point after you asked me to be your wife. Best friend is what's on replay again and again, since no friends is the reason we had a small family wedding. The same words from a child who is hurting in school, screaming no friends as they self-harm and cry. Day after day, he's the one that believed the lies, even though after the first session I made him realize. He also approved your aggressiveness. Seriously, what did he miss? I guess he just didn't understand, and that's why, again, we went to that childhood trauma specialist, because you told me your trauma started in kindergarten when your family didn't believe you. They took the teacher's side, and ever since then, oh my goodness, someone can't control themselves. Okay, so this childhood trauma specialist that I took you to, who's awesome, absolutely told me I can bring you there to relive what you did. Who also told you can't growl, you can't snarl, pleading his case like he's on trial. And this is where we stop. Oh, because I'm done. Done. Since I'll be writing sessions and everything that happened verbatim, because I have a system I've been documenting for more than 6 years. Just waiting for chronic pain and chronic vertigo to no longer go pop. That's how I distracted body from vestibular pain. I would say pop, because I'd prepare for that. I would prepare to say the word pop. P-O-P, easy to say. That is on YouTube somewhere in the universe. And now that I've said it, I'm certain that I will find it, because everything seems to pop up. That sound is super duper not a trigger anymore. Thank you. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable and disoriented, because I'm oriental looking, but you're the one that's disjointed, because you tried to use race play and past tragedy, attempting to brainwash and make me your submissive LG. Thanks. But one day you will see how I transformed such tragedy into my life story, all thanks to you. So what's interesting is the only pronoun that I had was you, because these voices were yelling at me, talking down to me, trying to brainwash me, and essentially use head trauma to fuck with me over and over and over again, like I'm stupid or something, like my reality is false because I'm asking for a classroom, because I'm telling you to get out of my house and you won't leave, because I'm telling you to stop, enough. And I'm telling doctors I'm not taking any medication because I'm so underweight. I have no body fat, I have no muscle. I had the body of a child. I couldn't find the one photo that I buried in Instagram of me being really underweight, showing my body and just how big my head is on my body, and it's terrible. I mean, I look anorexic. So I'm Italian, and being underweight is definitely a cause for concern. And my family and I didn't understand why doctors weren't taking that seriously. And I thought it was a race thing. That's what first made me aware to pay attention, and what triggered the race play that was going on in my home that was buried. Just like this photo that I bury because I posted in a moment of, oh my God. And then I bury it with other photos and videos and writing so that you can't find it. It's going to be hard to find because it's so horrific what had happened. I don't want to be put back in that place, treated worthless, treated like an object, treated like a plaything, and treated like someone who was disposable because of a decision of another person who didn't want to marry me, who had to marry me, and then had to figure out a way out of this marriage. All right, I did find a photo of me being pretty underweight. I don't like it because you can see my chest bones, but I got thinner. That's not the end of it because I lost all my fat, all my muscle. So I'm 105 right now, and my previous weight was 110 to 115. No, my race isn't a problem for me. What's your next question? And they literally never stopped persisting with this narrative they've already created. It was the assaults to my students and the events that happened that showed me abuse of power. And then the recognition that it's all around us and we need to address it because it's our mental health crisis in our society. How we treat people of difference worse and how we blame them for the actions that we're doing. All right, this last picture is also showing a selfie, which I don't usually do. Thank you.